I'm Bob at I Like to Make Stuff. Today we're going to make this old bathroom look like this. A couple of years ago, we completely took our master bathroom down to the studs and did a full renovation, and I never want to do that again. In this bathroom, I actually just want to update it. It doesn't need any big changes, it just needs to come from 1983 up to current times. Now there's several things we need to do to make that happen. We need to take down some old wallpaper, add maybe a frame around the mirror, replace the lights, and we need to replace this floor. Actually, instead of replacing it, we're going to be able to put a tile floor directly on top of it, and we'll get to that in a little bit. We need to paint the vanity, add some hardware, and make a couple of things to put on the walls. First step in this is to take down this wallpaper. I just started peeling, and actually a little bit of this came off very easily right around the shower, and that's because of the moisture in this area. The heat and moisture loosens up the adhesive on the outside of this. The rest of the bathroom is not going to be that easy. If you're ever going to do this, make sure that you rent a steamer so that you can more easily take this off the wall. I've taken off a lot of wallpaper, and this actually is coming off really quickly, so I'm moving along on this. This will be done soon. The next step is going to be taking off the baseboards so that I can put down the new tile floor, and then we'll put the baseboards back on top of them. Like I mentioned before, we're going to be putting the tile directly on top of the linoleum, which is kind of crazy, but I'm pretty excited about that. I got all the drywall taken down, the walls patched and painted with primer, so they're ready for their final coats. We also have the sconces taken down. Those are just going to get replaced in their same position, but we do have a light up here on the ceiling that actually needs to come out. We have several of these big fluorescent fixtures built into the drywall of the ceiling throughout the house, and we need to take them out, but that means that we also have to patch the ceiling. Obviously I cut off the power before I'm doing any of this stuff, but I did want to point out that if you saw the video a few weeks ago where we made the closet, it's actually right there. So I've been spending a lot of time recently in this particular area of the roof, so I already know what's up here. We just need to put in a couple more pieces of wood so that we can have something to screw the new piece of drywall into. And then for now, we're just going to push this up, and it'll get attached to some recessed lighting that we'll add into this panel after we patch it. I just made kind of a dumb mistake. I laid this on the piece of drywall and put the edge at 12 inches, and then I cut along this side, but actually the 12 inches is from this side, so my piece ended up being short. Just keep that in mind when you're using one of these. After that drywall mud dried, I sanded it a little bit, but it doesn't need to be perfectly smooth because we're going to be adding texture back to it. That texture is made by adding more drywall mud onto the surface with a brush like this. You just kind of dab it on. But there's another factor here. When somebody did this initial texture, I have no idea how watered down the mud was, and so I have to play with the consistency of the mud a little bit by adding water. Yeah, so right out of the bucket, it's way too thick. So I definitely need to water it down some. I got the first round of texture on the ceiling. It's gonna need another to try to match a little bit, but for now, we're gonna go ahead and cut the holes for the recessed lighting to go up in here. Then we can finish up the texture and paint the entire ceiling to try to hide it all. Now that we've got the light installed, we actually can work in here, and the next big step is going to be to put down the tile. Now in the past I've done a lot of tile work. It's really time consuming, really messy, but we're going to use something new today that I hope will make it easier. This is called Quick Tile from Tile, and it's actually a snap together porcelain tile. So it's about a 1/2 inch thick, solid porcelain, and it just lays down. You don't have to put mortar underneath it. You have to put an underlayment material. Then you have to just snap these together and grout over top of it so you can do the entire thing in a single day. So that's what we're gonna do today. The first step is to get up the toilet, and then we can start working directly on the existing floor. I actually just remembered that we did a bits video on setting a toilet a long time ago, and we did it on this toilet, which means we've already replaced the wax seal with a plastic one or a rubber one. So actually this one probably won't be as gross as most toilets are. This is a generic underlayment. You can put this under a bunch of different stuff. If you're laying down vinyl planking or wood floor, you can use this, but it also goes underneath this tile. Now, this is a waterproof layer, and when you're connecting multiple pieces of this, you just lay them up against each other, and then you use a waterproof tape to make the seal across the pieces. I'm gonna lay this stuff down, but it's not long enough to actually fill that entire area where the toilet is, so I'm gonna have to patch a section over there anyway. And so because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it so that it fits within this gap, because we're not replacing the tub and we're not gonna be taking up the vanity. So we're just gonna cut this stack of underlayment down so that we can fit it right through here. Then we'll come back in and cut another piece just to patch the remaining areas. One of the coolest things about this stuff is that you actually don't have to demo the floor underneath it. You can lay it right down on top of whatever's there. In this case, it's linoleum, and we're actually gonna take advantage of the thickness of that linoleum to make sure that the top of the tile meets up with the wood floor that it's gonna run into. Now, I also have to cut out this underlayment to go around the doors, and I wanna make sure that this trim fits on top of the tile as well. So I'm gonna lay it up against the door frame and then use it as a template to cut away the trim. One of the things to think about here is that these pieces actually have a grid on them, and since I cut them down and kind of pieced it together, the grids don't line up. But if I had thought ahead a little bit, I would have made sure that those lined up, because when I go to lay down the tile, that would give me a straight line from one end of the room to the other. Luckily, the tiles that I'm using are really big, and so getting these to snap together in a straight line is not as big of a deal as if they were put down over mortar. Because this stuff is snapped together, it's kind of like tongue and groove, where you have one piece down and then the other piece snaps underneath it. And that means you have to start in one corner and work outward. But unfortunately, I want it to line up with the outside of the vanity along this line, and I need to cut out the hole for the toilet. So I'm gonna temporarily lay out the line that I want right here, and then lay the piece that's gonna go over the toilet, figure out where to cut the hole, and then we'll actually start laying them back here in the corner. Just a minute ago, you saw me cut this circle out because I was planning on starting the tile in this corner, and so I was just gonna go ahead and cut that piece since it was close. Well, it turns out that this tile is a little bit different than what I'm used to because I've done a lot of tongue and groove hardwood flooring. And in all of that flooring, I've always started in this corner and worked that direction. And it turns out that the tongue and the groove is just in a different position on these tiles, so you actually have to start in that corner and work this way. So unfortunately, this one's not gonna work. But I've already got the piece going across to this point, and then from here, I've been able to work toward the toilet. I've got the first piece cut. I can cut this one down to fit in the remainder, and then we're good to go. I had trouble getting the first couple of these in, but then I realized that's because the underlayment is actually doing its job. It's stopping them from sliding around, but by using a hardwood block to knock in the tiles into place, it actually works pretty well. So I've got about half the bathroom done. I'm gonna go ahead and do these other two, and then we can jump on to grout. It's the next day now, and I did get all the tile laid down. Now you could absolutely tile and grout this stuff in a single day, but I decided to wait because we actually have several other things that we want to do in here. Once you put the grout down, can't walk on it for 24 hours, so I want to finish up a few more tasks. The first task is swapping out these sconces. These old sconces have a switch on them. They're not tied to a switch on the wall, so we tried to find something that we could just drop right in. Unfortunately, we couldn't find something that had a switch that we liked, so we're going to make one. We've got these sconces that we picked up, and we're going to add a switch to them. Now this is really simple. All you're doing is interrupting the lines that are coming in with power. You want to make sure you cut the live wire, the black one, and insert a switch in there. Once you've got that switch wired in, you still end up with a black and a white wire on the back of the light, then you just wire it up to the wall. I'm also going to swap out the fan in here and add one that has a light on it, so in case we're not using one of the other lights, we can use this one. I've got a new fan here, and it's got a really cool feature where you can actually push it up into the hole and then fold down tabs based on the thickness of the drywall, and then just drive in screws, so you don't actually have to go into the attic to add this. I'm ready to start painting the cabinets, and I sprayed on some really thin primer over this so it has a nice even finish. Came back with a really high grit sandpaper just to knock it off and make it super smooth, and then we're going to use a specific cabinet paint to paint these. Now the cabinet paint will level itself a little bit better than others, so you can use a brush and it'll still turn out to be a nice smooth surface. The tile's all finished up, and that stuff is really easy to work with. I'm pretty happy with it. It went way faster than the tile I've done in the past. It was sponsored by Home Depot, so I'll put links to it and everything else that we use down in the description. Another really cool thing about this was that I had all of this tile and all the supplies delivered on a pallet directly to the house. That just made it a lot easier. Now that we're done with the tile, got a few more things to wrap up in here. We've got some cabinet doors to put on. We've got a mirror to hang, and the big thing is to put some repositionable wallpaper on this wall. So we're gonna finish up all those things, set the toilet, which we also have a bits video about, and then we'll get to the wallpaper. The last big thing to do in the bathroom here is to add some repositionable wallpaper to this wall. Just this section. We don't want it everywhere, but it's going to be across from the mirror, so it will be kind of reflected on two sides of the room. It'll just give us some texture and make it so not everything in here is just a white wall. I've never done this before, but it doesn't look to be very hard. This is basically a big vinyl sticker. And so we're gonna draw out some vertical lines here to line up with, start at the top and kind of attach it to the wall, smooth out bubbles as we go down, and then move to the next row. The last big thing here is to put the mirror back on the wall. Now originally we had it horizontally, but we actually want to change that and try it vertically just to have a different look. And when you put a mirror on the wall, you can either do it in a frame or with some clips or mastic to actually glue it to the wall. We're going to actually use the clips that were on here originally just to make sure that we like it before we put the mastic on, because I don't want to have to take it off if it's glued to the wall. So we're going to put the same clips back in where they were, mount the thing in it, and this bathroom will be finished. And here's the finished bathroom. It did take a little bit more than a weekend like I was originally planning, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now obviously I know that this wallpaper may not be your thing, or the color or the tile may not be your thing, but these are our tastes. And I hope that you see that you can make a few small additions to a bathroom to bring it up to date and make it fit your aesthetic. If you're not into renovations though, we've got tons of other types of projects that you may want to check out, and if you're not subscribed, be sure to do that and hit the bell so you know every time we put up a new video. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Starting in this corner. It's this corner. It's my favorite corner. The last big thing here, the theater. Ah, it's upside down.
Perfect.
Why is it upside down? You ever heard that Brack song? Pineapple upside down cake. Why is it upside down? Why is it upside down?